school asked me to put something together here since we didn't have our alumni game this year, which obviously is terrible, amongst other things in the world. And you kind of, the students, we all feel terrible for you guys because you missed out on not only a great weekend, but a chance to meet successful alumni, get to network a little bit. There's a lot of guys over the years that have created relationships with alumni that have landed them jobs or gotten recommendations for grad school. And that's what we're hoping to do for you guys tonight, is maybe give you some connections, especially for you juniors and seniors. You might be able to, hold on one second here. We might be able to, make some connections here. So Tracy, at the end of this meeting, we're going to email the students a list of the guys that are on the meeting tonight, the alumni, and their contact information. So if you have any questions, if it's a career that you might be interested in, or if somebody had a major that you share, you could always reach out. All the guys here, I've asked ahead of time if they have any problem with anybody reaching out from the school, and everybody on here is great. They're all great individuals, and they'd love to hear from you if you're interested. So the way I want to start, just really briefly, is for the students that are on right now, if you could just very, very briefly, just state your name and what your major is, just so we all have an idea. Why don't we start with Brendan Kapsiak, and we'll work our way down the list.
So hi everyone, my name is Brendan Kapsiak. I'm a sophomore, and I'm an accounting major.
Great. Christian Alfieri.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Christian Alfieri. I'm a junior, and I'm an English education major.
Great. Ian.
How's it going? I'm a freshman. My name is Ian Zieski, and I'm a childhood education major.
Okay. Lucas.
Hi, I'm Lucas Coyne. I'm an accounting major, but I'm switching to undeclared next semester, and I'm a freshman.
Matthew.
Hi, I'm Matt Conahan. I'm a sophomore physics adolescent education major.
I'm AJ Wobig. I'm an accounting major.
Great. RJ. Did RJ just talk?
RJ, you're muted. Oh, my bad. How's it going? Sorry, guys. I'm finishing a workout. My name's RJ. I'm a junior, and I'm a communications major.
All right. Ryan and Jack.
What's up, guys? Ryan Bowen, and I'm a junior bio major.
Jack Anderson. I'm a senior graduating this semester with history and adolescent education.
William Bean.
My name is William. I'm a freshman and business and administration major.
Okay. Anybody on that I didn't call on? Any students?
Yeah, you didn't call me. I'm Derek.
Oh, Derek.
I'm a business administration major, and I'm a junior right now. So.
Great. Okay, cool. So we got a good mix of guys, and I think that a lot of the majors that were said here might fall into the wheelhouse of some of the guys on here. So what I'm going to do now is I'll call on each of the alumni. Now, each of you guys sent me a little blurb about yourselves. You don't necessarily have to read it word for word, but if you could just give the students an idea of what your major was, and what your current job is, what it might entail. Just briefly, we're not looking to go into tremendous detail. So we'll go down the list here. I'll start with Ed Chemnitzer.
Hey guys, my name is Ed Chemnitzer. I currently am the Director of Technology and Innovation for a school district on Long Island, the East Williston Schools. I taught English before becoming an assistant principal for 6 years, and I'm now in this current job.
Thanks, Ed. Mike Robertson.
Thanks, John. Hey, guys. Mike Robertson. I am a 2008 grad. I was in English and poli-sci minor. I'm currently an assistant district attorney for Monroe County in Rochester. So for those of you who don't know what that is, basically a prosecutor for the county on behalf of the state. I've been doing that for close to 9 years now.
Thanks, Mike. I'm next on the list here. So John Keene, I graduated in '98. I was a history major with a pre-med concentration. I went to grad school at Nova Southeastern University. I went to dental school first. I wasn't crazy about dental school. Graduated, then I went on to med school and did a residency in oral and maxillofacial surgery. I'm a private practice surgeon on Long Island. I'm an instructor at the Hofstra Medical School, and I treat head and neck cancer, trauma surgery, and oral maxillofacial surgery on Long Island. Brian Neenan.
Good evening, gentlemen. First of all, congratulations to everybody that's a Mudcat. That's fantastic that we were able to keep this thing going. So when I was in school, I graduated in '96. I was a math and computer science major. And then I got my education certification as well. And then I went on to be a teacher of math and computer science before becoming assistant principal. And now I'm currently a deputy superintendent in the Webster Central School District, was right here in Rochester. And I'm in charge of the curriculum and instruction in our district. So it's good to see everybody.
Thanks, Brian. Jeff Strollo.
Everybody, Jeff Strollo here. I graduated SUNY Geneseo in '97 with a double major, psychology and sociology, and I minored in criminal justice. When I left there, I went to Towson University and got a master's degree in clinical psychology. And since then, I now currently, for the last 20 years, have been working for the state of New York as a psychologist. I'm actually duty-based right there at SUNY Geneseo in the same building as Tracy. So I run into her once in a while. About it for now.
Thanks, Jeff. Chris Romesser. Chris Romesser out there.
Yeah, I had to unmute. Sorry. How's everyone doing? Good to see everyone here tonight. I had the privilege of spending a lot of time at Geneseo with Mr. Johnny All-American Keene and Jeff Strollo, graduated in '98. I was an elementary education major. Went on to teach for several years in a lot of different schools and levels. Fell out of love of education and fell into the financial services business. I am now a financial advisor right in Batavia, New York, with a partner of mine, where we invest in risk management and wealth management, financial planning, etc. So happy to be here. Just kind of my story is that what you're doing in college doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it later. The world takes different turns, as we know. So it's great to be here. Any questions, let me know.
Thanks, Chris. Greg Mayer.
What's up, everybody? John, thanks for inviting me on the call. My name is Greg Mayer. I graduated in 1999 with a biology degree. After Geneseo, I went on to get a doctorate in physical therapy from a school called Arcadia University down near Philadelphia. After that, I started practicing as a physical therapist, and I'm currently the director of a physical therapy clinic here in Rochester.
Thanks, Greg. Vinny Dallo.
Good evening. Doc, thank you. I appreciate you putting this together. It's good to see everybody. I am Vinny Dallo. I graduated Geneseo in 1994. I was part of a group of guys that actually got the Mudcats off the ground. So when we first organized as a club team, 1993 would have been our, 92, 93 would have been our first season as a club unit. So that was a lot of fun. And I was a communications major and an American history minor. Also a proud brother of the Delta Kappa Tau fraternity. Here in Rochester, I am a financial planner. It again, similar to as Romerser said there, that's not something that you get a chance to major in school. But some of the benefits were, you know, as you start to find yourself and maybe what's a good fit for you professionally, you do realize that you gain some very important skills and some background going through a Geneseo education. And you could apply that to a field of your choice as you move on later in life. So I'm glad to be here and look forward to turning around fastballs against you guys again soon.
Thanks, Vin. John Sennett.
Hey guys, so John, am I the oldest guy on here?
By a lot.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay,
By a lot.
well, good. So I get to take a little longer, right?
Take your time.
Well, first of all, I can't believe we're recording it, so now I gotta be careful what I say. So that's gonna be a problem. Secondly, Vinny and Jeff, shout out my fraternity brothers. Great to see you guys. DK all the way. Yeah, I'm John Sennett. They call me Odie, my nickname back in my DK days. Class of 83. I was a management science major. Is that even a thing anymore?
I don't know.
Yeah, they tried to church it up, I guess, back in the day. It used to be business administration, but that was my major. I actually stayed in my field. One of the few guys that I went to school with. I've been in corporate finance my whole career, the last 34 years. Since I got my first job, I worked for a company called UniFirst. It's a Boston-based company. I've been in New England for 25 years now. And I'm director of financial operations at this company. And I'm very happy to have been invited here tonight and hope that I can help share some experience and wisdom with you guys. So thanks for inviting me, John.
Thanks, Odie. Appreciate it. One final guy was supposed to be here who was not able to at the last minute, Ed Noonan. Ed Noonan is the Deputy Chief of Police of the Utica Police Department. He got called out on an emergency last minute. He was very disappointed. He texted me a couple of minutes ago. But he left his contact information for me. Anybody interested in law enforcement or talking to him about law enforcement, he worked his way up from 2001 to 2015 from sergeant to lieutenant to captain, and now he's the chief of the department there. So wonderful guy and a great guy. Everybody on this call, by the way, for all your students, is a great individual, a great person. I know them all personally. They're all very successful individuals. They were all successful at Geneseo, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I asked all of them to be on here tonight. And in addition to that, there's probably another 10 to 15 guys at least that I could have tapped for tonight, but we wanted to keep it brief. And if this ends up being useful to you guys, we can do another one with a totally new group of guys that are, again, highly successful and more than willing to help out a baseball alumni.
Don't let Noonan fool you. He had a J. Crew photo shoot, I think.
Yes, good-looking guy. All right, so what I'd like to do is I have some questions for each of you, each of the alumni, just to cover a little discussion before we end the call. But what I'd like to do is ask the students, are there any students right now that have any questions for any of the guys here, anybody who's maybe looking for a job in the next couple of years, looking to do what any of the guys on the call do? I'd love to hear from you to at least start a little discussion. Any student.
I'll go. What is like one thing that any of you guys like wish that you would have known when you were in college, like just going into the work field? Just anything that you wish that you would have known.
Well, Derek, what is you give? Just give us your major again. What are you going into?
I'm business administration with a marketing minor.
Okay, maybe Odie, could you take this one?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And actually, I was asking that same question when I was you. What I really wanted to do, what I really needed to do is I wanted the experience. I wanted to just get out there and get in there, right? And get started with my corporate career. That was key. And that is the key to getting started. And it actually took me a couple years after I graduated to find a real corporate job and a path that I was happy with. You know, I sort of had taken a couple of different jobs at the time, and I actually moved to Boston to take my first job. So that you know, that's you know, good question. And to me, the whole thing was, let's get going, because you're going to learn so much more on the job when you get started. The degree gets you there. You're gonna every year, every person you talk to, everybody you work with, you're gonna gain so much experience, and that's where it's really at. So the key is getting started. And we hope that we can help you do that.
Any other alumni want to chime in on that one before I move on to another topic?
John, I'll chime in real quick.
Go ahead.
And it's less specific regarding actual career, and it's more geared towards making life decisions. So, you know, just a snapshot of what I did. I went down to Baltimore to go to Towson University, and I figured, all right, I'm going to get a clinical degree or a clinical psychology degree. I'm going to be in the FBI. Right there in Baltimore, there's all kinds of different places, Quantico, and then there's NSA. And I got down there and I realized, okay, this probably isn't for me. You know, I had to write a paper in my first class. It was a 20-page paper on what your values were. So I quickly circled back to realizing, you know, I'm a proud to say mama's boy and a homebody, and I wanted to be what I am right now today. I got 3 kids. I'm close to my family, and things are great. Well, before I knew all that was happening, when I thought I might go in the FBI or something like that, I realized, okay, it's not for me. So just kind of knowing where you think you might want to be, beyond just actual your profession, but all the other things. Where do you want to live? What your family, what you want that to look like. So those are things that I wish I could have saved a lot of money if I would have went to a different college. I mean, I went out of state to a private school and it cost me a lot more money. I could have stayed local. That was kind of, you know, things all worked out, but that was something that I probably should have contemplated before jumping into it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I mean, I'll add to it just to say that, you know, my motto would be, looking back, experience is never wasted. You might try something, you might leave school and go into a certain career and realize it's not for you, but it didn't mean that you wasted your time, because you got experience and you learned, if nothing else, what you didn't want to do. But more importantly, you have something to throw on a resume that may make you look more interesting. So the worst thing you can do is to do nothing. For any grad that's coming out, pick something, try it out, and there's no shame in saying this isn't for me.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback on that, John, just for a second, I think if I listen correctly, like Odie's probably the only one that stayed within his major the whole time. And so, like for me, I went to school to be a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher. I love teaching. I love that whole thing about it. And here I am now. I fell out of love with that teaching, where you got to get your feet wet, just get out there and find things. Because one of the main things that I remember thinking when I went to college is, what is there? What's out there? I grew up in a small town. I knew there was teachers, police, correction officers, all those things. Get out there and find out what's out there. Your degree will take you places. And then you'll find your comfort zone, like Jeff said. Just like Jeff, I've got 3 kids that, and I'm home with my family when I need to be, and you know, enjoying life and successful. So yeah, just get your feet wet. Doing nothing never works.
Cool. All right, let me throw a couple of questions out to a couple of the guys we haven't heard from yet. So Mike Robertson. So Mike is assistant district attorney in Rochester. Any Geneseo students that are interested in going to law school, for example, what do you recommend for them? You know, if they're a sophomore, junior, they haven't considered it until today. What recommendations might you have for them? Any opportunities for internships, externships, things like that?
Yeah, so we do, I'll jump on the latter half first, I guess. We do have a lot of interns. We've actually come up and kind of shadow us. It's extremely boring intern type work, but it's an interesting look into what life is like as an attorney. As far as going to law school, I think I'm the only lawyer on here. I would, if you're considering it, I would take an extremely hard look at it and shadow as many different places as you can. It tends to be a very boring type of job that is kind of glamorized in popular culture. So I think going into that, you need to know that to make sure that it's the field you want to be in. Similar to Jeff, actually, I wanted to be in the FBI, and that was kind of the path that I was going on. It kind of, you know, lost interest for a little bit and then regained it back when I went to law school. And ended up similar to a couple of guys. I started dating girl in Geneseo who, by the time I was in law school, was clear we were, headed to marriage, whatever. She was not into the FBI idea where you're going to move all over the place, so sort of took a different path. But when I got to school, I was a little bit disillusioned with practicing law because it was so much more boring than I realized. And so I really like what I do now. It's very exciting. It keeps me busy. It keeps me stimulated mentally, probably too much so a lot, but so it can be very different though across the board. So if it's something that you want, it's such a diverse practice area. Definitely shadow or talk to anybody that you can who's a lawyer, get their take on what life is like, because it really does vary. And there tends to be this idea that if you go to law school, you can do anything. I don't know that that's necessarily the case anymore. It does open a lot of doors, but it's not the be all end all that I think it gets billed as. I'm not sure if it's still like that, but at least when I was in school, that was kind of the saying. I don't necessarily find that to be the case. So really make sure that you take a hard look at it, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to, even if you don't want to be an official intern, you can come shadow me for a day and, we can have lunch and talk about what I do. And, I can introduce you to some other different type of lawyers that we interact with and kind of give you a glimpse into like the criminal justice system and various different avenues in there. So I would definitely make sure you do that and try to reach out to as many people as you can.
Cool. Thanks, Mike. I'm going to throw it to Brian Neenan. So, Brian, you still on?
Yep, I'm still on.
Cool. So, Brian, you're superintendent of schools. Obviously, there's a couple education guys on here, and I'll ask Ed to chime in too on this one. How can a future new teacher, a guy that's graduating Geneseo this year, next year with a teaching degree, how can they prepare themselves for the competitive New York market to get a job right out of school? From what I understand, it's real tough to get a job in a good school district as a teacher. What hints can you give someone, a new grad, to maybe kind of getting one of those golden tickets into a top school district?
Yeah, network. So, just continue to, if you've got any connections to any school districts, whether it be a former teacher, former coach, you want to try and break in substitute wise. When I first got out of college, you probably did the same thing. When we first got out of college, that last half of May and all of June, I can remember subbing every single day. And in my senior year, I subbed in the interim piece where it was all of January. I subbed that entire time, and that just kind of breaks you in. And then while you're doing your student teaching, that is critical to not just network with your cooperating teacher. You got to network around the school as well. If you can join a club, do it. I was the chess club advisor. I had never played chess. I had the 8th graders thinking I was Bobby Fischer, though, because I'd sit there. The kids would ask me, what do you think about this move? And I'd be like, I don't know about that one. Meanwhile, I'm reading the instructions to chess on the sideline. But again, I wasn't afraid of it. I just would go in and have some fun with the kids, because that's really what it's about, is connect with the kids, connect with the adults, coach. If you can coach something, baseball, obviously, get involved in the baseball program while you're doing your student teaching if you can. Be a fantastic opportunity. But the more networking you can do and the more you can try to get yourself into a school for different situations, that's how you're going to break in. And when you're actually in that interview, you'll have had somebody in your corner making a phone call, shooting a text, et cetera, saying, hey, take a look at this person. You definitely want to consider them as a applicant. So if there's anything I can do with any of you guys, please don't ever hesitate to reach out. I'm in Webster, like I said. You can, you'll have my information from this call, so don't hesitate. Always excited to help a fellow Mudcat. And Strollo and I got the room together, and I'd give anything for those days again, back with Strollo and Vinny Dallo and Kino. It's the best. You can't miss. Don't enjoy every minute that you have right now. You're gonna get there when you get there, but like these guys, a bunch of the guys are saying, take it one day at a time and soak it all in and enjoy it. Travel too. I think traveling's something you can gain all kinds of experiences from, whether it's in the country or out of the country. It helps you immensely.
Thanks, Brian. I want to throw it to Ed too. So Ed, if you can comment on my initial question in terms of how, in terms of new students getting jobs in education, but also comment on your technology background. I assume that you didn't graduate with a technology degree. Now you're the director of technology in a school. So you have to have gained some experience after Geneseo in technology.
Yeah, so everything that's been said, I would definitely agree with. From networking to doing more than if you get in the classroom. I coached baseball for 7 years, the high school level, and I felt like when you start creating a resume and you want to get a job in a better school district or one that even pays more, it adds to your resume. As John mentioned, I started as an English teacher. I was teaching for 7 years. The school district where I was working, West Islip High School, put me on a leadership cadre. I had no intention of being an administrator in my life. I wanted to teach for 30 years or more. And they asked me to be part of this program. I got my administrative degree. I was in Atlantic City having a great time. And the assistant superintendent called me up and said, "Can you be here in the morning? We have a job for you." And I became a dean of students for a year. And then from there, just networking. I was offered a job as a director of English for a school district, Deer Park School District, at 29 years old. And I was not ready for the job. I took the job and it was great. At the same time, I co-founded Ed Camp Long Island. And we developed a networking group of people. There was 20 administrators on Long Island, created this group. From there, that's where I got my big shot when Massapequa School District gave me my first assistant principal job, which I did for 5 years. And so here, how did I become a technology person? Well, we were seeing that one-to-one technology would be the need in schools. It was 2010. I got sent down to South Carolina for a week in the Richmond 2 school district. And I spent a week down there analyzing a 30,000 Chromebook rollout from Google from start to end of how that worked with the military community. And we lifted a one-to-one in Massapequa, 7,000 students, each had a device. And then from there, in my 5th year as an AP, I started to get the itch to leave, to be a director of technology somewhere. And Massapequa gave me a job as assistant director of technology for 2 years. And my 2nd year there, here comes the networking. East Williston School District, director of technology, leaves to become an assistant superintendent. The assistant superintendent was the Ed Camp Long Island co-founded with me. And here I am. So I've been in East Williston for 4 years. I don't know if you know East Williston at all. It's a very small school district, a very successful one. And, my career from an English teacher now to leading one-to-one technologies, K-12, during a pandemic, during COVID craziness, making sure everyone has Wi-Fi in their houses. And it's just, it's a great job. But as everyone on this call has said, when you make connections, that's the key, because as Chris mentioned, you may be an elementary teacher one day, but you may not be the next day. So it's good to have those options available.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate all this insight so far. I think this is great, and I think really, as students out there right now, what you're hearing is, calls like this. This may be the start of something that maybe we'll start doing this every year. But take advantage. And I'm going to say this again, I'm sure, in closing tonight, to all you students that are listening right now, and those that might listen to this at a later date on demand or whatever. Reach out to the guys that are on this call if you're interested in any of their careers, because this is how you're going to get your first connection into potentially your field in the future. Greg Mayer. So Greg, the physical therapist, if anybody on the call, there's a couple of science majors on the call, anybody who's interested in physical therapy, is there anything that you recommend in terms of new modalities, new technologies, new training that you would recommend that you wish that you had done a couple of years ago?
Yeah, like a lot of the guys on the call, when I got to college, I wasn't sure exactly which direction I wanted to go in. I wasn't the greatest student in high school. I was kind of a lazy student. But when I got to college, I decided I was going to kind of turn it around and really put a lot of effort into getting good grades and studying hard. And part of that would be my advice for the students on the call right now is doing really well and excelling in what you're doing at school. will open up a lot of potential doors for you when you're done with school. If you're not quite sure which direction you want to go, you can still try and excel where you're at right now. And then again, it'll give you more opportunities down the road. When I was at Geneseo, I actually volunteered at a physical therapy clinic in town, and that kind of helped push me in that direction. After spending a few weeks there, I kind of realized that that would be a great road to go down. I was really happy I did. I loved physical therapy graduate school. Those were 3 of the best years of my life. I had a really great time there. You're kind of spending a lot of time every day, day in and out, with the same group of people who are kind of similar, like-minded individuals, and I really enjoyed that, and I got to come up with some really great lifelong friends through that program. And then that just kind of opened up the doors eventually to kind of my career. So, you know, again, part of what I would suggest is, you know, if you're not quite certain which way to go, spend time volunteering, spend time trying to get some internships, spend time networking, find out what's out there, find out what you're interested in, but also work really hard at, again, where you're at right now in school. It'll just open up a lot more opportunities for you for whichever direction you decide to go in.
Thanks, Greg. Couple more questions, and that'll open it up to students before we finish up here. For Vinny and Chris, in terms of the financial services industry, I know you guys have both already mentioned that it's not a major, it's not something that people go into, yet most of us on this call, most of the alumni have some financial advisor that we take pretty significant advice for, that are going to shape hopefully our retirements and things like that. But options are available for someone who goes into finance.
Chris, you want to lead off? You want me to you want to take it? Well, he's muted, so I'll just go.
Why don't you start, Vin? You start, Vin.
All right.
Chris,
well, I'll just to give you an idea. Like, I had no idea coming out of school. Obviously, as a 21-year-old, where having finances wasn't really something I was in my line of sight. And also, in that time period, there wasn't probably the media focus on building a 401k or market performance and things of that nature also. As a communications major, I realized pretty quickly, let's put it this way. When I graduated school, ESPN2 basically just started. So you still didn't have the explosion of media around the country that we do now, blogs, podcasts, what have you. Okay. So after sending out physical tapes, VHS tapes or cassette tapes, and realizing that this wasn't going to go the way I planned,
ESPN1.
I kind of was in that difficult boat of what do I do now for work? If you're an accounting major, a hiring manager, a recruiter can pretty much identify what you're capable of. You have accounting background. As a communications major, it was like, well, you could talk, right? You know how to do that. RJ couldn't even work the mute button earlier, and he's the communications major, so that kind of makes you worried. I don't know. Keep lifting though; it'll help. But afterwards, I got into a sales role, and and because that was the thing I knew how to do. Even when I was at school, I worked in the alumni office, banging phone calls, asking alumni for money, and it was a good paying job, pretty easy, but something that carried over, and I had to start identifying what did I learn and what can carry over. And, if any of you guys that are, active students now that have the opportunity, if you haven't taken some type of business communication course or a public speaking course, by all means do so. Those of us that are old now start looking at this generation, and I honestly think, will you even be able to talk to somebody in person, or are you too, is this your only method of communication at this point? But having that ability to directly communicate, and in a sales background as well, most of life is a sale. You're going to have to sell yourselves when you get out of here to get a job. You're going to have to get somebody to say yes to something. And, once I recognized and kind of landed in the financial planning field, at 16 years ago at age 32, that was also, again, where are my transferable skills? And what can I apply that, helped me back then into that line of work? And what I recognized was, and this honestly to me, I think is the most important thing that we all have in common, is we're ball players. And as a baseball player, not only are we an athlete, but we have to be mentally stronger than other people. And I think this is a huge advantage. Life is about, baseball is a sport of redemption, right? You'll get up at bat and you'll strike out looking, right? Now you got two choices. You go back in the dugout and cry, or you go back in the dugout and say, he's not going to get me low and away again. If he starts me off with the cheese, I'm turning it. You have an opportunity to get up again, another at bat, another game, another play in the field that you can get going with. And if you're strong enough mentally, you're not going to be beaten down by the fact that I can't catch up to that pitch, or he knows that I can't lay off the low and away slider. The reality is life and your work and your career future is all going to be the same as that. The difference is some guys just go back to the dugout and cry about it. But for us as ball players, we recognize that, look, I'm going to have challenges, but I'm going to figure this out. And there's a resiliency that has to carry over in your professionalism. And that will separate you, regardless of what field you go into. You will find that you will rise to the cream, that rise to the top. And you'll find that, it benefits you in the long run. And that's, again, I can't speak enough about that. And I realize that in my business now with financial planning, and whether it's, a new client acquisition, I'm used to the word no. And it's not simply from sales, but I'm used to that short-term failure. But failure, even you guys that are still working out, we use failure as a good word, right? I live till failure. I'll go until failure. And you learn and you grow. That's where the growth occurs, on the other side of failure. So use all those experiences that you get from being an athlete. Use those experiences that you start to pick up early out of school when maybe things don't go as well. And don't stop looking around. Because if I would have stopped looking around after a sales job here and there, I wouldn't be here today doing what I'm doing. And that's also, again, realizing as ball players, and you start to be in a leadership role. And the number one thing that I, focus on now as a financial advisor is I recognize the importance of leadership. Clients look to me for answers. They look to me for guidance. It's not so much, they don't ask me my prediction if the stock market's going to go up or down, but they ask me sincere questions that usually sound something like this: what do you think I should do? And that's an awesome responsibility to have to accept. And, but if you're prepared and if you're confident, there's an opportunity where, your advice is going to be, relied upon and successfully acted upon. So that's really kind of the thing of it. I don't know if financial planning itself is something so specific that you would want to land on, as much as I think it was my characteristics of, this is what I was meant to do. So, but again, I'll say it forever, man. Nothing helped me more in the professional world than being a baseball player, for sure.
Yeah, that's great, Vinny. I can't say much more than that, but I kind of go back to where I started going to be a teacher. And I think that one of the reasons that I was going to be a teacher is because that's all I knew. I grew up in a small town. My family were teachers, my aunts, my uncles, my grandmother, my grandfather, all of those. So I said, well, yeah, I should be a teacher. I'm a people person. I'm type A personality, et cetera, et cetera. So I did the teaching thing, got the education degree, obviously did the teaching thing. And several years into it, I realized this isn't for me. And I kind of thought I was stuck for a while. And
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, see, I come from a family of educators. My father was athletic director at my high school for 35 years. He ran New York State Public High School Athletic Association for 40 years. But I decided that's not the way I wanted to go. Right?
Right.
It would have been easy to go in that direction. So,
right. Yeah. No. And that's kind of where I was going, is that you don't know where life's taking you, and it's okay to start somewhere, not necessarily thinking that you have to be there forever, but you gotta get your feet wet and you get the experiences, like Vinny said. So when I fell out of love of education, I'm a numbers guy. I was a math guy all along. I'm a people person. I ran into the right people at the right time through the networking and things. And I fell into this financial services, which I really didn't even know much about what it entailed. And so they have us take these really hard tests that you study for months and months sometimes and get licensed to do that. And it's kind of going back to what John said, and what Vinny said is, it's a big responsibility. People ask us really emotional questions that we have to be prepared for. While you're in financial services, you're getting recruited all the time. Now, I have a successful firm, thousands and thousands of clients. We're responsible for tons and tons of money, and people are always trying to reach out to us. Hey, do you want to come to this bank and work? Hey, do you want to come to our firm and do life insurance? There's lots of different avenues in financial services. But going back to what Vinny said, we are all ball players. And I think that is huge because sports in general, baseball, football, whatever it is you play, teach you discipline, mental discipline, and the go-get-em attitude. I started from scratch. I needed something that would drive me and push me. And I basically got into this company, and they said, okay, here you go get clients. And that was it. Go get clients. All right. Well, so I started at literally 0 and said, bang the phones, go out to the neighborhoods, go wherever you got to go. And that's how you started. But it was drive. It was drive. It was drive. It was never stop, never stop. My family was essentially secondary at that point for several years. And I knew that I needed to get this. So now I have the time and the money and the experience that I can hang out with my family and work and have a successful business. So my point is that life throws us curveballs. To go back to the baseball thing, life throws us curveballs. Where you start is not necessarily where you're going to end, and you may have several different curveballs for you. It's just get those experiences, network, talk to people, but be genuine. I always tell people, especially in my business, it can become salesy, and Vinny will probably agree with this. It can become salesy. Don't be that guy. If you're real and you're you get payback. It's paid forward to you. So so as far as financial services go, there are advisors, there are banks, there are insurance companies. It's all financial services that if you get into that business, you have lots of avenues.
Thanks, guys. Listen, so what we're going to do, we'll wrap it up because I wanted to keep this under an hour. I don't want people to start losing interest in it, especially students here. I want to open this up for a couple of questions for students, but I think that, what the common theme here too is and I think we can't go without stating it, is that all of us have a Geneseo background. Every one of the guys on this call graduated from Geneseo, and we all were prepared well. Whether our careers changed, whether we went into something that we continued it with the rest of our lives so far, if you change course, you have a really good background with the education that you're getting right now. So students, we have guys on here that are teachers, that are superintendents, we have physical therapists, we have lawyers, doctors, financial people, psychology, you name it. We got almost every profession or somewhere related on here. Anybody have any questions for any of the panelists here before we end the call?
I got a question. So this is kind of like a general one. So right now, I always wanted to be like an accountant or an actuary or something, right? Something around that thing. But now that I'm taking it, I kind of realized that I don't think I can sit behind a desk and do paperwork and all that because I'm like a really social person. Do you guys like have any career options or anything that you would recommend?
Yeah, who was the name?
Will Bean.
Will, how you doing? Yeah, listen. When I first started my career, I was scared shitless of customers, right? I want to talk about a customer. I don't know what's that all about. And I was a finance accounting guy, right? So you don't like accounting, but you can go in business. If you like business, a lot of it's the same. Managerial accounting is not the hardcore accounting. I'm not a CPA, right? So you can still go into accounting or management or finance and still have the same kind of impact. So I would, I think you could go in that direction and if you're interested in the corporate environment. I think that might work for you.
All right, sweet. Thank you.
Also, so I'm not an accountant, but I was for a brief accounting major while I was in Geneseo. Like what I initially wanted to do was to be in the FBI. I'm not sure if that's something you're interested in, but it seems to fit with a couple of the boxes that you're talking about, where you're a people person, probably not advertised very well, but they recruit accounting majors. It's like one of their 5 or 6 core backgrounds that you can directly apply to. That might interest you. Look into it. I can't remember if it's one where you need professional experience in addition to the degree or not. But it sounds like it could be something that would fit with what you're looking into, and it's not one that I don't know a lot of people know that connection there. But I do know that some. I think right now his website, you can get an idea of kind of what the background would be and what you would need to do.
All right, sweet. Thank you.
Just to kind of add something, we've heard a couple of people mention the FBI interested in it and weren't, and then it kind of turned it down. Ed Noonan, who's not on the heat in Utica, graduated from the FBI National Academy at Quantico. So if anybody on the call is interested in the FBI, you guys, tomorrow, Trey's going to send everybody a copy of the bios from all of our alumni panelists here tonight. And so all of their information is included on there, including patients. So if you want to reach out individually to any one of these guys on here, we're more than happy to call you, text you, email you, whatever. Any other students have any questions before we finish things up here?
Yeah, I got a question. Mr. Robinson, when did you realize, like, how long were you in college when you realized that you wanted to go to law school? Like, I've known going into college, I've always wanted a cousin's a lawyer. I've grown up family friends that are lawyers, so it's kind of always been like, I don't know, like in my mind, like what I wanted to do. But I know for some people it's not like that.
Exactly when it was, maybe by sophomore. Like I mentioned a couple times, my initial path wanted to be in the FBI, so I kind of looked into. So I started accounting because of that, and also my grandfather used to tout it heavily, and so I did that for a year or two and didn't like it, and so I thought, if the FBI thing didn't work out, I would want to be an accountant. So I switched to English because I thought, as being an okay thing, I was like reading all that sort of hokey stuff. And then also was starting to trend towards, okay, if accounting isn't going to try to get maybe law school will, that's another one of their core concentrations that you can do. So I would maybe sophomore, junior year is when I started to think about it, but I stupidly didn't. I assumed I would not be a practicing attorney. I figured I'll do this. I'll get right into the FBI after law school. Interest started to change during law school. Not a great example. I knew I was going to go to law school. Later during school, mentioning, it sounds like you've already kind of hit this, but mentioning before that about it, make sure you kind of know what the lifestyle is like and what the career options are like, because it's a little bit different than it's put out there in popular culture and stuff. Like, they make it look like this sexy, glamorous job when it's really much more similar to 9-to-5 desk job, actually probably more than 9-to-5 usually, desk job basically. So, but it sounds like you kind of already have an idea of that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if you ever want to be in the criminal realm, get in touch and you can come up, check out what it's like. It's a little more fun than some of the other areas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a quick question.
From students. Go ahead.
Yep.
First off, I want to thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. But I had a question for anyone involved in education. I was wondering, when I'm going into interviews, I really want to demonstrate that I am really willing and want to become part of that school environment and that local community. But when I'm interviewing places that aren't that hometown that I'm from or somewhere right around Geneseo, I was wondering what the best way in that interview would be to demonstrate that I want to become part of that local culture and community without seeming overbearing or anything like that.
That's a great question. A lot of times on interviews, candidates will basically read you your website. You know, they'd spend the night going through websites, this. I would really focus in on one thing, you know, that community has that help you grow. And I think that's important too, when you're on an interview, to really show that you're looking for a fit as well. Who's looking for a fit in an education, you want that same fit. So I focus on one thing, whether the community, it's the social emotional learning network that's on, or is it the you know, the local culture, whatever it is, and focusing on that and share that would make you a fit, which I think is extremely important. Say to everyone now, get on Twitter, because Twitter is where you develop PLN, you learn a lot. And I got to tell you, every time a Geneseo resume comes, first person to pull it and make sure that they have the top chance at it, because I think it's important, you know, that we hire people who are smart, and we hire people who are thinkers and people who have the experience of being, because that's important too. I think not just, you know, I'm from this town and I want to work here. You know, that to me, and I'm sure that Brian, is good to have people who are not just, I went to school here, I grew up here, I want to teach here, I don't want to go anywhere else. Like, to me, that's like the least impressive quality of someone.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can just add that was great advice. Energy and really focus on the kids. I think that's what you really want to make sure you're there for the kids. You're there because you want it to be a student and everything else, and it'll come out. You know, what you're trying to say, I think, is exactly what we're looking for. And what Ed said, it's about being well-rounded. For, you know, if you're a science major or an English major or whatever major, we're not just looking for how you did in that. We're looking for what you did in some show that you're a well-rounded candidate and that you can do the technology piece. Like saying, when we look at kids coming out of college, it's almost a little bit of an expectation that you guys, you know, we were digital immigrants, if you will, and you guys kind of circles around us for that. However, you want to make sure that you hone in on rookie smarts. So being a rookie in any profession that you guys are at, it's an important piece, and that's one of the things that baseball teaches you as well. You walk in as a freshman, you don't want to be the be-all and the end-all. You want to you give some props to the juniors and the seniors, kind of thing. That's the same thing in a corporation and anywhere, education or whatever. People want an education, like they've been there 20 years, that they can help you and that you can help them, and then that's when the synergy happens. So
Brian, that's a good point. With that, you said, and again, in your
So much. I really appreciate that.
Any other students? Okay, good. Well, unless any of you guys can interrupt me, but I'm just going to quick closing remarks. Went an hour and 6 minutes overtime. Hopefully we didn't bore anybody. Hopefully we've given you guys the first connections of your career. That was to give you guys, the students, your first connections of your career. And you choose to use you. We're sorry that we couldn't be there this year for the alumni game to kind of hang out with you guys. To me, you know, seeing the guys in this panel, these guys are like my brothers. I love hanging out with them. I love seeing them at the games, whether it's on the field or afterwards at the dinner. I know that you guys who have been to you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who are freshmen, I'm sorry that you didn't get to experience it. To meeting all of you next year. This is your first use life. We're here to help you. I would love to arrange a game this spring, although I think the prospects are pretty dim right to it. If it's, but at the very least, by next fall, I'm hoping to see all you guys on the field again. Maybe we'll do another one of these spring or so. We'll introduce mates here. Hopefully you had a good experience on here tonight. Hopefully we gave you something to think about. Alumni, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time is valuable. And this isn't easy to find an hour these days for everyone. So from the bottom of my mouth. And if anybody else has anything to add, otherwise, I will see you soon.
John, what's the situation with SUNY schools? Are you guys stay there? You have to come home Thanksgiving and
Yeah,
you're
we
done
come
for the
home.
semester?
We come home after Thanksgiving, and we stay at home till like February.
But we're gonna stay. We're gonna stay though. So some guys they right through till December. So.
Wow.
It's tough for labs or I'm student teaching right now, so it really depends on what's going on if you go home or not.
Hey, Ryan, where are you student teaching?
I'm student teaching at Fairport right now. I just started my second placement last week.
Which school?
Fairport High School, 10th grade.
Who?
Chris Moretter.
Well.
Oh yeah, he's a Geneseo grad. What was that?
That's all. Yeah, I taught with Chris. I taught high school. My
That's
wife's
awesome.
still teaching in Fairport. JP. Very cool. Good luck to you.
Well, thank you guys so much and everything.
Hey, good to see everyone. We'll see ya.
Good to see you guys. Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of everybody, we got to thank John and Keen for getting us off. We feel a lot, John. Appreciate
Good
it.
job, Doc.
For sure.
John did a small.
Wouldn't expect anything else from Johnny All-American.
That's right.
And this life is all about connections. It's all about who.
Find out who you know so I can sit at the ballpark next time.
Great.
I appreciate your help. You guys will let me know if it's a while. I'd love to have you guys back on in the spring if we do another one of these.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Please let me know, because then it'll help me in terms of knowing if anything came of this at all, because I don't want to waste time if we're just doing this and no one takes advantage of it. But we'll do. I mean, you just saw with Brian, the student knows. Students.